Hey there. Here we are, chapter 11. I don't know why it's uneven like that, because everything else is even, but. So I apologize. Okay. Good grief. I'm sorry. Okay. So here we are, chapter 11, Power and Political Behavior. So this is an interesting chapter, as so many of them are, in my opinion. But the point of this class, and we've talked about this before, is that as to how to manage yourself and others in the workplace, and how to recognize certain behaviors in the workplace. There we go. How to recognize certain behaviors in the workplace and understand them better and know how to react to them. And there is nothing more sure in any kind of an environment with more than two people that there'll be politics and there will be power issues. So that's what this chapter is all about. Okay, so first I want to differentiate three terms: power, influence, and authority. Power is specifically just the ability to influence someone else. Where that power comes from, we're going to talk about. Influence is the actual process of affecting how someone else thinks, behaves, feels about something. And then authority is the right, someone's right to influence someone. So we'll see. Some people have authority, some people have power, some people have authority and power. All right, so the zone of indifference is this idea that how much we're willing to be influenced, essentially, and how much we don't really necessarily think about it. We just take it for granted. When we're growing up, our mother, our father, our guardian tells us what to do, and we do it. We don't really even question it. So that's the idea of the zone of indifference. And it's just something to think about. Okay, so there are 5 different kinds of interpersonal forms of power. So when I say the agent, it means the person who's exhibiting the behavior. So reward power is someone's ability to control rewards that the target wants. So a raise, a promotion, a better office, a special parking spot, time off, whatever it may be. Coercive power is someone's ability to cause someone else an unpleasant experience, getting fired, getting demoted, having a cut in pay, difference in hours, that kind of thing. Legitimate power is based on position. And when we talk about mutual agreement between the agent and the target, when we take a job or when we start to work for someone or work with someone or, we play on a team, there's an agreement that we agree when we're participating in this group that person has legitimate power over us. Okay, referent power is basically this idea of likability. It's just based on people liking each other, someone liking each other. You do things because you like them. We see this certainly in our own personal lives. So we do things just out of likability. Actually, in not the most recent presidential election, but in the presidential election before that, in 2012, people talked about the likability of the candidates. Which candidate was more likable? And so likability is this, and referent power is sort of a growing trend. Anyway, expert power is based on someone has some sort of specialized knowledge: a physician, an attorney, an accountant, a chef, because of some sort of specialized skill or knowledge they have. Okay, so which power is most effective? Generally speaking, we think expert power is. I mean, you could argue that in many different ways, but if an expert tells you something, you're really going to really believe them and probably follow what they say. And also depending upon, I should say, regardless of where you are in the organization, you're probably going to, the person with the expert power probably has the most control. Okay, so intergroup sources of power: 2 things: control over critical resources, money, time, raw materials, and control over strategic contingency, so that one thing has to happen before another thing happens. So information, like you can't complete the financial reports until sales and marketing has their information. So that's a strategic contingency. Or you can't hire more people until the boss says it's okay. That kind of thing. So interpersonal power. Let's go back. Interpersonal forms of power, and then here again, intergroup sources of power. So we're looking at the individual and the group. And intergroup power. A group has power over someone if they are able to reduce uncertainty and offer activities that are difficult to replace or reproduce or find someplace else. And the function that they're completing is central to the organization. So, for example, at a manufacturing plant, you might not be able to work unless the electricians turn the machines on or fix the machine. So the functioning of it is impossible without it. Okay, so this is something you can just kind of go through on your own. I think it's important to think about. We talked about these 5 different kinds of power: reward power and coercive power. We do this chart in a couple different slides because it's kind of big. But basically, treat people well. If you have power is a very, I hate using the word special, but it's something that should not be abused. That's kind of what it comes down to. And so make sure that you're fair and make sure that you treat people well and as objectively as possible and with as much respect as possible. So the coercive power, punish in private, for example. Don't yell at people. I'm not saying you, but like you walk in, sometimes you'll see people treating someone else poorly, and that's just inappropriate behavior. It's unethical to embarrass someone in public. Okay, and again, legitimate, referent, and expert. Don't take advantage of people. If you have referent power, don't take advantage of people's likeliness. People's fondness for you. Don't manipulate them in any way. And that expert power comes with the responsibility of keeping informed and making sure that what you're saying is accurate. Okay, now there's also this idea of information power. And information power is basically access to information, access to and control over important information or having information ahead of time. So, maybe it helps you to plan. It helps you to react, respond more quickly. Also, there's a certain level of an ego that goes in there with having information power. So here we go. Using power ethically, does it produce a good outcome for people on both sides of the organization? Does it respect everyone's rights? And does it treat everybody fairly and equitably? All right, so there's this idea of personal power and social power. When you have personal power, it's the idea of you using it for your own personal gain. Whereas if you have social power, you use it to create create things that are going to help people for the greater good. So the example they use in the book of the personal power is Rod Blagojevich, whose name I'm sure I'm hopefully I'm pronouncing correctly. He was the governor of Illinois when Barack Obama was elected president, and when Obama was elected president, he left a state senate or a U.S. Senate seat empty, and so Blagojevich was able to fill that seat. It left in the hands of the executive of the state to fill that seat and to appoint someone. So he was trying to sell that seat for, some kind of favor in return. That's not, to help for himself. He wasn't using it as social power to find the best person to represent the people of the state of Illinois. So that's definitely, he, as a consequence, I'm not sure if he still is, but is spending some time in the federal prison in Illinois. He got in trouble for that one. But anyway, so personal power. Social power, you can think about people who use social power to help others. Princess Diana comes to mind. Bill and Melinda Gates do that, certainly, to try to help other people. So again, it's this, power is a great responsibility. Okay, so people who use power successfully believe in the authority system, so they believe in respecting the authority system and who's in charge of who. They tend to be very disciplined and believe in good work. They believe in justice, and they're altruistic. The idea of altruism is that you are there to help people for the greater good, and you're doing things out of the goodness of your heart, not necessarily for your own personal gain. Okay, so we're going to talk about 2 symbols of power and symbols of powerlessness. We're going to talk about Cantor and Corda. First, we're going to talk about Cantor. Cantor's got symbols of power. They all center around doing things for others. So helping out someone in trouble, to try to maybe protect their job or help them get a promotion, trying to get placements for people, exceeding budget limitations, getting raises for people, getting items on meeting agendas. That's very important. Getting it in front of the group to talk about. Access to early information, which we talked about before. And if top managers seek out your opinion, that would be a symbol of, in terms of Cantor, a symbol of power. Okay, so Cantor also talks about symbols of powerlessness at various levels of the organization. So if someone is if a top executive takes has budget cuts or only speaks top down, that would be a sign of powerlessness. He or she doesn't feel enough power to empower others or share information or whatever, to get communication back and forth. Managers, if there's a sign of powerlessness, they're in the middle. Managers tend to be in the middle between upper management and frontline folks. So this idea of blaming other people for things that are happening and not taking responsibility for themselves, that would be a sign of powerlessness. For staff professionals, not really being open to change, trying to protect their turf, not trying to keep their own slice of the pie instead of making this pie bigger. First line supervisors, oftentimes there's a powerlessness. They tend to micromanage. They adhere to the rules. They they would rather do the job themselves and try to train someone else to do it. They keep things very close and not very controlled. So those are signs of powerlessness. If you see people in those positions at those levels exhibiting these kinds of behaviors, chances are either they feel that they're powerless or they truly are powerless. Okay, now we're going to Corda, and he talks about power symbols. One is furnishings. If someone has a file cabinet or locks their office, whatever, that could mean that a sign of power that they have information that's valuable enough to be locked up. Round versus rectangular conference tables. Conference tables, you could talk lots about conference tables. That a rectangular table, there's going to be one person at the head, and that is a sign of power. Or a round table, everyone is more equal. And then the size of the desk, it's maybe silly, but there is a little bit of truth to it that the larger your desk, the more power you may have. Okay, and then time, also a symbol, Corda's power symbol. That if you share time with others, then it's this idea that if someone is willing to share their time with you, then you have some level of power for them, and that they respect your power, or that you have power over them. Time is very important. And then I also talked about the type of watch, that the more detailed your watch, or the more gadgets and gizmos on your watch, perhaps the less power you have. So if you have a very sleek watch, you probably have a lot of power because you're not as interested in time, and time is your own. So that's, again, this is a general thing. So don't think, oh, I have a watch. Don't think about it too personally, but it's this idea of attentiveness to time and how beholden they are to time. Okay, and then standing by is this idea of are there more people who inconvenience themselves on your behalf than there are people on whose behalf you would inconvenience yourself? So if you're at the beck and call of your boss, then that means that boss has power over you. Whereas if you have a lot of people who wait on you, or that kind of thing, that would be something that is a sign of powerlessness. So standing by. Okay, moving on. We finished with power. Now we're going to talk about politics. Organizational politics, use of power and influence in organizations. That's about it. And its political behavior is anything that's outside of the official format. Okay, so conditions that encourage political activity or cause political activity. These are some things we've talked about before, particularly when we talked about stress and the stress chapter, and also when we talked about performance evaluation. Unclear goals. If people don't know what they're supposed to be doing, or maybe no one really knows what anyone's supposed to be doing, that creates a vacuum for someone to swoop in and take advantage of others. Autocratic decision making, just everyone's doing their own, self decision making. Ambiguous lines of authority. If ambiguity means that there's nothing sure about it, you're a little confused as to who reports to who. So again, there's this vacuum. Scarce resources. When things are good and there's lots of money to go around and time and employees to go around, there's not a lot of political fighting. But once things become scarce, things get a little testier. You could even use the example of, at home you've got 6 people having dinner and you've only got 4 cookies, and all of a sudden there might be a little bit of politics going on there as to who gets the cookies. And then finally, uncertainty. It's this idea, it's along the lines of the unclear goals and ambiguous lines of authority, but uncertainty about the future, uncertainty about what's going on, also creates this opportunity for people to participate in political behavior. Okay, so there are some influence tactics. We talked about influence in the beginning, and we're going to go through these from sort of the harshest to the most gentle. Pressure is basically threatening someone. Upward appeals is telling people that, the boss says it's okay, so we should do this, when maybe you haven't even talked to the boss. Exchange, if you vote for my project, I'll vote for your project. If you help me out with this, I'll help you out the next time. Okay, coalition is getting a group of people together and behind the scenes, so to speak, or out of the public decision-making process, and using the support of other people to sell your idea before maybe they hear the other side of the story. That's coalition building. Ingratiation, basically buttering someone up. Boy, you've always done such a great job. I really, your kids are so well behaved, and it's just such a pleasure to always see them. Or I can always count on you to help me out, that kind of thing. So it's buttering someone up and then asking them for a favor. Rational persuasion is just this idea of looking at things and saying, this is how much money we're going to save, how much time we're going to save, looking at things very objectively. Inspirational appeals, you'll see this a lot, particularly in fundraising. So you make some kind of emotional request. Looking at the value, selling things in terms of the value of the greater good and like a mom and apple pie kind of speech. So, and then finally, consultation is asking someone to participate in the decision-making process. The only thing with that, you have to be careful that they understand that you may or may not take their consult. Okay. All these we see these things in our personal lives and in the news all the time, and certainly at work. Okay, using influence tactics. Try to treat people with respect. Make sure that things are reciprocal, that there's a give and take between people. Always maintain open communication, and always focus things based on the organizational goals. Okay, so what is it that people have who are politically skillful? They're socially astute, which means that it's also this idea of emotional intelligence. We've talked about that before. They're able to get along well with others. They're able to network. They know a lot of people. They know they can understand who connects with who and that kind of thing. And sincerity. People really appreciate sincerity. Okay, so managing political behavior, be sure to recognize it when it happens, and keep things as open as possible. You can read through these things. Make sure that people understand what their performance expectations are. We talked about there's some ways there's the antidotes to the situations that make political behavior possible. Make sure there's participative management, that people have a say in what's going on, that people are, reward and encourage cooperation among work groups. Make sure that if there is a scarcity of resources, that they're managed well and fairly, and also that there's some sort of, that it's a supportive work environment for these kinds of things. Okay, managing up the boss. So basically, it's the idea of understand where you're coming from. So what is it that you're looking for, and also try to put yourself in the boss's shoes and understand. We talked about, work styles and strengths and weaknesses. Earlier in the semester we talked about the Myers-Briggs and that kind of thing. So the personality test, understand how they make decisions, understand how they take in information, understand where they get their energy from, how their scheduling, that kind of thing. So understand yourself and understand others as best you can. And then make sure that you have a healthy relationship for the two of you and it fulfills both of your needs, and that there's understanding between the two of you, and there's honesty and that kind of thing. All right, empowerment is this idea of sharing power, that people believe in their own ability to do their job, and so people give people the tools, not only the tools in terms of the actual equipment, but also the level of decision-making ability. And again, this idea of giving them not only the tools, and the resources, but also the latitude to make the decisions. Okay, so there you go. That's that. Chapter 11 with power and political behavior, and a lot of good stuff in here that will help you not only in this class and taking the test, but also in your life. Okay, thanks, guys.